Good evening. We
Look at
went
that clock. Foreshadowing is a literary device.
well, there were a whole lot of better graphics for A Stitch in Time than there were for, a bunch of undead one-shots.
Not surprising.
Yeah, imagine that. So welcome everyone. This is my very first live game review. This is not actually for Through the Breach, it's for a couple of their adventures, but I did feel like I was going to have to skim through the rules a little bit. Um, just to kind of give a base for the game. Uh, just for the record, I did get a PDF copy of Through the Breach, and I got a copy of both, like an actual physical copy of both of these one shots. Um, Kilo did not, so hopefully, that'll balance out any bias I might have. However, it turns out that he really likes the minis game and I could care less. So, maybe we'll both have our own different types of bias. Kilo, welcome and thank you for joining me.
You're very welcome. I was very interested to get a crack at this. I have paid attention to Malifaux for a little while. It's got a semi-active presence at my local game store. The minis are very cool. And before Goat mentioned this, I didn't even know they had a role-playing game. So this was a nice little side path for me.
Yeah, that actually has been a lot of people's result. I said, I'm going to review Through the Breach, and they went, "Oh, what's that?" And I said, "I think it's the role playing game for Malifaux." And they were like, "Malifaux? I love Malifaux."
Yeah, they really should have called it Malifaux Through the Breach or Malifaux the role-playing game.
Well, that's fine for the core book, but then it gets really confusing when you get to these supplements because it's already like Penny Dreadful one shot fully loaded the vial volume. Like it's already like six
What is
different
the actual title?
I don't actually know. I think Penny Dreadful is a series of books that were put out as supplements, but I do not know why they are somehow categorized as separate from um
Yeah, I think
any other
they're what
supplements.
in Pathfinder would be called either an adventure path or an adventure module.
I don't really know. I don't know enough about the game other than what's in these books. Which actually brings me to we're going to start off on the things I didn't like so that we can end on a positive note. One of the things I did not like is that the company that shall not be named has made me very leery of you must buy multiple books in order to play this single game. Um, and so this Through the Breach that I have the core rules for is apparently the core rules only if you are playing characters that are entering Malifaux for the first time. If you want to play a character who has lived or was born or is, a weirdo in Malifaux, you have to have a totally different core book. But that is not apparent until you have bought this core book
And read through
and
most of it, frankly.
and read through most of it, and then they go, "Oh yeah, by the way." Um,
This is especially annoying for me because the parts I like about Malifaux are the weirdos. I like the bayou, the gremlins, and the giant pigs. I
yeah,
think the
like,
humans are not super interesting, but I feel that way about most games.
well, I was gonna say, that's generally the case. Who plays a Star Wars game and doesn't want to play Jedi?
I mean,
Like, I
that's me, but there's other interesting stuff in Star Wars.
well, yeah, but I mean, like, who wants to play, the no-named grunt who's, on the ground in the infantry during the Clone Wars or something? It seems like a weird choice. Especially since this is kind of listed, or at least I'm guessing since this is the book they gave me, this is the primary core book, so it seems very strange. It seems like a strange choice in a world where people want to play everyone except the humans. Um, Other things, and this is a personal bias. This is not this game. This is a personal bias. Uh, I don't like games where you use cards. Um, I do like the fact that you can use a regular deck of cards in this game.
Me too, but I have a caveat. I don't necessarily mind cards. I think cards are cool, mostly because I like Deadlands. The one thing that does annoy me though is this game functions totally normally with a regular 52 deck of cards. But they call it something else. They call it a tarot deck, and they constantly show you these other symbols when all they've really done is replace jacks, spades, hearts, clubs. And it seems like they're really trying to goad you into their buying their extra tarot decks, which are just a 52 card deck. They've changed just enough to sell it as a separate product.
Yeah, and that's not what a tarot deck is at all.
No. It
Um,
was confusing for a while before I realized that tarot deck just meant a 52 card deck.
right. I do like the fact though that the problem with the specialty decks that are not just 252 card decks
Mhm.
is that the minute you lose one card, you can't ever play the game. And I already have an issue with the fact that I have to buy two separate core books in order to enjoy the full game. Uh, and the fact that I then have to turn around and buy a deck of cards that I know me, within a month, I will have to buy another deck of cards.
I just wish they had gone a slightly more honest route and just used the same symbols for a regular 52 card deck and sold their own thematic, like artsy fartsy versions, which would be a nice, cool
Yeah,
accessory.
yeah, that would make sense. And I don't understand why they called it a tarot deck because, again, it is absolutely not a tarot deck.
Well, thematically, the game is about, like, seizing control of fate. So tarot makes sense in that context. It's just factually inaccurate in a way that's kind of confusing.
Yeah, but I mean, this is me. I have an issue with
Yeah.
factually.
Like a tarot deck, when you're doing a tarot reading, you're laying the cards out and they're describing what's going to happen. That's basically the same thing you do in this game. You lay the cards out and they determine the course of events.
Yeah, I mean, it's a card reading action, but the deck itself is not literally a tarot deck.
Correct.
And so, like you, I was very confused initially, and I was like, "This doesn't sound any. None of the cards they're listing are tarot esque." Um, I do like the art in this a lot.
Yes.
It doesn't get boring because there's a lot of different styles. Each section kind of starts with an almost photorealistic, old timey like set shot. And I don't remember on Stitch in Time, but it works that way both in the one shots and the um the core book.
In Stitch
Uh,
Time, they're a little more like landscape paintings, but it's the same general idea.
yeah. Um, I think some of the creatures are really interesting.
Oh, I love the. If we can skip a little ahead here, I need to find what it's called. But there's a very cool creature in Through the Breach, which is a sentient nightmare that inflicts madness. The delirium,
Oh yeah.
that's it. That thing was really cool.
Um, I understand too that there are people that love lore. I think that tends to be okay. I'm making a huge assumption here. Because I am married to a man who loves minis and loves the lore of the minis. Minis players seem to love lore to their stuff. And so I get that I probably should have mentioned, um, in case I wasn't specific enough. This is a role playing game based on their original minis game.
Yes.
Minis game is Malifaux. This is Through the Breach, which takes place in Malifaux. Um,
Malifaux being the name of the miniatures game and the world in which it takes place.
correct. Um, but I think when you're going to have what was it? It's something like 47 pages of lore before you actually get to the game. You need to give me more than just a whole lot of I mean, yes, there is some nice art here and there, but there's a lot of just blocks of black ink and white paper, and I would just go read a novel. Like if they had taken that whole section and just been like, here is the lore of the world, you can do like Warhammer does and just make books separately. Um,
Slight counterpoint. I think that setting the feel of a game before you get into the rules can be very effective. See also Call of Cthulhu starting every rulebook with literally the Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft. What I think would have made this better is if they had done the very cool thing that I think it's Numenera, the new edition, does, where they color the borders of the pages by subject matter. So if you want to skip to the rules, you can skip past it and just go to the next color.
Yeah, and what happened was I kept thinking, because this is listed as if it's the introduction to the characters. Um, and so I kept thinking, well, I don't dare skip all of this because I don't know if something important is going to come up that I need to know for character generation. Um, and again, I like reading, but this is so it's choppy. It's like important chunks of history
Hmm.
that all seem to involve people making the same very stupid mistakes over and over again. Like, it's basically a history book, like an actual history book. And I never liked history class very much.
It's kind of dry. I like a lot of Malifuax's lore, but it's dry and it doesn't focus on the things that interest me, especially all that often.
Right, exactly. Like, if they had taken this whole section and they had made like an actual fictional history book where they gave like a more in-depth rundown that isn't quite so dry, like I would buy that. I might buy that before I bought this book. Because there are parts of it that are really interesting, and then it's just like I don't know. It feels like there's a whole lot of Deus ex machina that goes on. Like, yes, we've done the same dumb thing over again. The world is about to end, and this random thing occurs, and therefore everything's fine now.
Somehow the tyrants returned.
Yes, there's a whole lot of that. So Earth
It's
still
not quite that
exists.
bad, but yes, go on.
Earth still exists, but there is a portal to another world called Malifaux, and Malifaux has these gems which allow you to do magic. Um,
It also has Fae, who do magic stuff and do not like humans.
yes, well, that's part of the whole historical thing is that, there are a bunch of things that have been twisted by magic. They are now known as the Neverborn. There are tyrants, which are beings that sucked up a whole lot of magical power and are now basically immortal.
They're kind of
Um,
like dragons from Shadowrun, if you're familiar with the concept.
which from Shadowrun? Sorry.
Dragons.
Oh, yeah. Um, but they're constantly like they don't have bodies for one reason or another, and so they're constantly trying to get bodies so that they can, be more powerful again. Um, when you go to Malifaux, there is always a chance that you are going to develop magical abilities just because of the kind of inherent nature of the place. Uh, except that magic is illegal, basically, and so then you're immediately going to be arrested and imprisoned and forced to work in the mines. So what I found really fascinating was this entire world is populated and they are constantly bringing people here to work these mines for gems that are illegal for anyone to use, basically.
It is very funny that the character creation, especially for the sample adventure in the core book, goes on and on about how tight an iron hold the guild has on travel in and out of Malifaux and magical artifacts, and even the practice of magic itself, where they ban certain disciplines outside of a very narrow range. And then we do character creations like, oh yeah, you can be a smuggler or an illegal mage or someone who just got onto the train anyway. The actual logistics of playing a character like that are very, very lax compared to what they're trying to set up.
Yeah, and I don't know, it seems like there's a lot of contradictions, and that's part of the reason why I wish they'd just make a separate lore book and flesh it out more, because why are there so many of what appear to be these contradictions? Um, I don't know that they are contradictions. Maybe if you get more in depth, um, there are things that make more sense. But
I'm admittedly not a super lore heavy person, but it seems almost like they're doing the Stormtrooper thing, where Stormtroopers are horrifying combatants in Star Wars who could never land a shot. The Guild is this incredibly oppressive totalitarian entity who never actually inconveniences things unless players really screw up.
Yeah, yeah, there were parts of it I just found really weird. And this is again why I think it might have just been easier if they had just cut a whole I do think having an introduction is important, but I think this introduction just left me with more questions that I really had than I started with, I mean. Um they also have a mechanic in this game that is a little weird. I emphasized it more in the one shots. I think I actually even took a picture. But they have sections where it's like you're trying to accomplish something and it feels like a video game. Instead of role playing through the thing you're trying to accomplish, they're like, you just have to flip like cards. And if you succeed a certain number of times, you have just gotten whatever it is you want. And if you don't get enough cards flipped that are a success, then you fail and you have to do something else. Um,
Oh yeah, it's the ongoing challenges mechanic.
yes, thank you. I was trying to remember what they were called. Um, but it seems like it's a role playing game. Like I can see where that would be totally useful in a minis game. Um, but it's a role playing game. Like I want to role play through stuff. I don't want to just be like, okay, I flipped the right number of cards, so we're just going to skip this whole chunk of the adventure.
I don't necessarily mind that. It happens in a few other role playing games. It's actually Pathfinder has a very similar system. It's mainly for doing things that would take a long time and would be tedious to role play through, like fixing an engine or something
Except
like
that,
that. Except
except
it's
that,
not applied like that here in some cases.
yeah, in the one shots, there is an adventure where like running away from the bad guy and deciding whether or not to like help other people that he's murdering along the way is is one of these.
Yeah,
And there's one where like asking people for information is one. Like if you go to a bar and you flip the right number of cards, you get information. If you flip one short, you don't get partial information. You just get nothing. And I'm kind of left thinking, well, if you role played through it, like why not just role play through, you know, asking people the information you need to know. You're in one place. You're asking like one set of people. It
one
doesn't feel like it would.
potential reason is maybe the cheating mechanic, where if you're trying to get players to wear down their hands over time and have less good cards later, which is a
I
very meta gameplay focused reason and not a
I was
story
gonna
focused
say I don't
reason.
think I feel any better about that.
I didn't think you'd like the cheating mechanic very much in general.
um. So there are various groups you can play. There are a lot of mercenaries. Um, in fact, mostly what a lot of this seems to get aimed at is mercenaries. There are a lot of engineers. Um, you also, I think, despite the fact that this says you have to play normal people with this book, there are also lots of references to if you play one of the undead. Uh,
Yep.
and I don't know, maybe some of these. Oh, I do. I love this one. I think that's a great picture.
Oh yes, that's very cool.
Um, but yeah, so that is kind of the basics of starting with the game. Let me get myself back here. And then we had two adventures. One is a Stitch in Time, um, which I think Kilo you're gonna start us off with, and then the other one is a book of one shots, most of which are related to necromancers and undead, but all of which are pretty different otherwise. So, uh, Kilo, if you want to kind of give us a quick
Sure,
start up on
absolutely.
Stitch in Time.
Absolutely. So, A Stitch in Time is unsurprisingly a time travel adventure, if you can believe it. The adventure opens with you helping. It opens very strangely in that it does something that I think most groups would immediately find suspicious, which is the opening is here's this NPC you've been helping for weeks. You really like her and think she's good at her job. It kind of
Um,
assumes a value of trust that I think most people would be put off by.
Uh, it also does sound like they're setting you up for. I mean, it's like it does sound like a bad setup for this person will betray you eventually.
Yes,
Uh,
partly
which
that.
spoiler does not actually happen, but
No. In fact, one kind of issue I have is that a lot of the plot seems to not work if any of the NPCs distrusted or didn't believe or help this NPC that you have with you the whole time.
yeah, there's that. There's also the fact that I I find the fact that like the first third of this adventure is like I went into this adventure going, "Oh cool, this is going to be a time travel adventure. This is great." The first third of the adventure is the time travel machine's broken.
It's
Uh
really boring.
you have to fix it.
I think the first part of this adventure is the worst, which is really bad for starting off a campaign. You want players to keep playing over time.
Now, is this do you think this is one of those so they can, convince people to give up cards that
No, because the different acts, I'm pretty sure, are supposed to be different game sessions, so that would reset between them.
oof, that makes it
Like,
all the because there's
yeah,
like and
Act
it
One is should be one session, Act Two should be one session. Is I think how they intended, because this game is very tightly focused on uh, a session is something where you pick your pursuit and you level up your pursuit every session, which is kind of the progression mechanic. So they
hmm.
really want you to have tight like beginnings and endings for every session, which is going to be challenging for most groups, I think.
Yeah, I also so not to jump ahead to the one shots, but I had not realized I knew that those were just kind of general like here are spots you could start and stop. Um but like there's one that's very very short. Like I don't know how you'd make an entire game session out of it and nothing really happens.
That's
Kind
that
kind of
sounds
like the
not
first
good.
third of this adventure. I mean,
The
isn't there a whole section? Yeah, so that's the other thing. This game is very stringent about how much time it takes you to do certain things. And there is one scene where I think you spend 2 hours standing in line at a government office
Yes,
looking
which
for
is
a
extra
piece.
funny because this first act brings up a thing that's going to be a recurring theme for this adventure path or Penny Dreadful, and it's that it is very, very railroady, which is kind of fun and ironic for a game about cheating fate.
I'm gonna guess that that's one of the things you thought I wouldn't like about it.
No, that was more on the mechanics side. I think this is something I don't like either.
I was
Where
trying to figure out if it was the adventure because, I mean, the nature of pre-written adventures tend to be pretty railroady, and that's why I tend to not use them.
see this one is kind of funny in a way of like how not to do it in a sense. It improves after this, but I'll give you an example. So the first part of this adventure is essentially you need to get two MacGuffins. The MacGuffins have disappeared because our NPC's former partner didn't want to work with her because she was a black woman. So you go hunting for these two other artifacts, and one of them, the one it assumes you go for first, is in a junkyard. You walk into this junkyard mid being essentially robbed by a group of mercenaries. There's a closed sign on the door, and the door is open. The players can hear people talking inside. If the players happen to do the thing where they like knock on the side of the door and ask, "When are you guys actually open?" If the mercenaries had the good sense to say, come back tomorrow morning, as opposed to immediately fight to the death, which is what they're scripted to do, the players would leave, the bad guys would steal the artifact, and the adventure is over.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the very common sense thing to do would result in it being over.
Yes.
Um,
It's also worth noting that if you go for the other artifact, you sit in line for 2 hours at a government office. You just happen to meet a guy on your way out who can help you get the artifact because the office said no.
oh no,
And then you,
they didn't have it. They were out of stock. Like they stopped making them.
yeah,
So you spend 2 hours and I was like, oh, this is so much like real life. I do not play role playing games
but it
to spend
just so happens that a random guy with a bacon machine eavesdropped on your conversation and knows where to find one of those. and tells you to go on this trip for a week out of town to a robot city. So presumably, if the players do that artifact first and are out of town for a week, if they come back and do the other artifact later, I guess the robbery will still be happening because otherwise the game doesn't happen.
Yeah, and that's probably a distinct difference between how most people run their games and how I run my games. I run my games in a way that it doesn't matter what the players do, the world continues on around them. I had somebody once say that the best game they ever played was that the game master gave them this world-ending event, and they just ignored it and decided to go be merchants instead. And there was a big discussion about whether or not, or there has been big discussions about, like, is it railroading to, like, get them to come back to the adventure? Why the heck would you, or do you just rewrite the whole adventure? My response was, I would absolutely let them go be merchants, but the world would end anyway. Because NPCs exist outside the players, and the world exists outside the players, and the bad guys exist outside the players. And so, while a certain amount of modification gets done for what players want to do, the world continues going on around them. So, if I were running this and they went to go get the first MacGuffin first, the robbery would be over by the time they got back. Except that that's not their fault because the game is just set up badly. I mean, I guess the robbers could have stolen everything except the MacGuffin they need.
That'd be very, very silly.
But I definitely would not have them still dealing with a break-in.
Yeah, the
Now, what I might do is have them deal with heightened security because the break-in has taken place.
true, or you've got to get it back from the people who stole it, which seems like the obvious solution to me, but they specifically call it out. If it's stolen, it's gone forever. The players can't get it.
Yeah. Well, that's why, house rules exist.
Yep. The other MacGuffin does have one of my favorite NPCs in the entire module, which is a sentient robot in the sentient robot city who will give them the MacGuffin, but only accepts payment in human kidneys.
I forgot about that
Yes,
part.
and for all of the alternate paths, quote unquote, this adventure gives you, this thing will not accept any other payment method. You can ask him to accept less kidneys, but he won't accept anything else.
Yeah, and you literally have to give up a kidney.
Or fight him, I guess, but that attracts other attention. I don't know what most groups would do in that situation. I think they just attack the thing.
It seems very weird. So you've taken a trip for a week out to this place, you then lose a kidney, you then have to heal up, and then you have to, come back for everyone's going to assume you're dead by the time you get
Yeah,
back.
exactly. It also has the fascinating sidebar of what to do if the group tries to intimidate one of their followers into giving up both their kidneys, which the adventure will later say the players are bad people for refusing to help a damsel in distress they've never met, but they will give you options for condemning someone to a slow, painful death.
Yeah, there are some very weird choices. I mean, hysterical if you want. That's the thing. If you wanted to play this as like a joke game, I think it would work pretty well. Like if you just wanted to play this as a cartoon.
There is a very funny scenario like that in the complications section where in Act 2 there is a love triangle with this damsel in distress you save and her two suitors. As written, it's kind of boring, honestly. There is a fascinating thing in the complication section of making it a love quadrangle if one of the players decides to fall for her as well.
I had intentionally forgotten that part.
I think that would be silly enough to be very entertaining.
Well, but that's what I mean is that, like, I really think that this almost only works if it's done as a cartoon because it just the first part especially is just so it's either going to be really ridiculous or really boring. I mean, what gaming group? How many acts is that first? The whole nonsense with the going to get pieces and that's got to
Uh,
be
the Act 1 is getting the time machine fixed. And spoilers, it's a time machine. So at the end of the act, it turns on, and your NPC buddy is like, "Oh, cool! This will let us make unlimited breaches. Which, if you know even a little of the lore, would break the setting completely. So they're not going to do that."
So wait a minute, hang on a second. You go for the week trip and you stand in line for 2 hours at the DMV, uh, and the original break happens in the first place, and that's all supposed to be one gaming session?
That's my assumption. Is the acts are intended to be one session.
That
It
is
does
a
not explicitly say that, but that would make
ridiculously
sense
long
with
game.
most of the game.
Like, we could play for an entire weekend and not get through that.
Well, yeah, that's because we'd be fighting like 17 orc brigades on a 5-day trip if we were in one of your games.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Um, I was thinking more along the lines that the discussion about who was giving up kidneys would take, 45
That's
minutes on its own.
probably true.
That would take a very long time. Actually, it wouldn't take a very long time because after you fought the 5th Orc Brigade and you got there, a certain someone in the group would immediately just hold up the orc kidneys that they had just harvested because they were going to keep them as trophies. Um,
Also, probably pick a fight with the gatekeeper.
yeah, it's just, I mean, like I said, I honestly think initially I was very frustrated with this game, but the more I think about it now, the more I'm like, I could run this just as a silly game and it would be great. The problem is I don't think it's intended to be run as a silly game. Like it's supposed to have really serious like end world consequences at the final scene. Um
True, but they undermine that in a certain way. So they turn back on the machine. It makes a snitch in time, if you can believe it. And the players get sucked in. In the middle of getting sucked into this rift, there's a random guy in a gray robe in the middle of it who's like, "You fools!"
we have our own Gandalf in this adventure.
We have Gandalf at home. I do not like this
you f-
character at all.
you
I think
fool
the
of a
adventure
took.
is way better without him. He will not show up again until the very end.
You fool of a took.
But yeah,
Um
the player characters get warped back in time by I think roughly 100 years. And this is one of the instances of, like I mentioned, the plot doesn't work if everyone doesn't like and help this NPC. Her machine just like exploded and sent them to a random location and gave at least her a serious head wound. I don't think it damages any of the PCs because they've got to do a fight right after this. But if any of them is like, "What the heck did you do to us?" and don't trust her after this, then things get a lot harder to string together.
the the machine damages her. The rest of the party gets to wait 10 minutes before getting damaged.
Yes. So immediately upon arriving in the past, you see a pretty woman screaming for help by a spooky Quebec man. And
Um
if no one goes to help her, the brain damaged NPC who's bleeding profusely will be like, "I'm gonna go save her," and go in by herself.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea what's going on in this situation, but we should help. I don't know where we are, when we are, what's going on, who she is, who that guy is.
Which brings one of the strangest things in the entire adventure, which is this damsel NPC has a sister, and depending on whether you help her or fail to help her or succeed, she will either get kidnapped or be saved by you guys. If you save her, her sister will get kidnapped. If she gets kidnapped, her sister will fulfill the role she was doing. So the plot is almost exactly the same, with these two quantum sisters doing basically the exact same actions. And I don't know why they give you quite this much quote unquote choice.
Well, the other thing that was kind of confusing to me is that this whole thing is based on like how much do you change history? Um except there's very little you do in this entire adventure that really seems to have a whole lot of impact. Like one sister gets kidnapped or the other.
The butterfly effect is not really a thing here.
Right. And that's what I'm saying is this whole adventure, and I'm jumping the gun here, but my frustration with this whole adventure in the long run was it doesn't seem to make any difference. Like most role playing games are based on, here's the thing you're trying to accomplish, here's what you want to achieve. Uh, in this case, the achievement is I want to get home again. Um, Most of what happens in this adventure has nothing to do with that goal
Yep.
and does not seem to really have any, it really doesn't seem to make any difference. Um, except that I guess if you don't help her, well, actually, helping her actually causes more changes because I believe her romantic interests end up having a falling out and like one shoots the other in history. So by saving her, you actually prevent one of them from dying. And like that's a huge change to history.
There's also one very notable change you could do, which is allowed in the rules, I'm pretty sure, but would break the entire campaign, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. So anyway, you save her, you don't. Either way, you end up taking a sister home.
Yep. And you meet her two suitors who are a
Or her
healer
sister
NPC.
suitors.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're just let's just go through this assuming sister number 1 is the one that gets saved, because otherwise it just gets
yeah, they don't
unnecessarily
have
confusing.
meaningfully difficult personalities.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's absolutely no, except one of them wants to get married and the other one doesn't.
One of them is slightly sassier. The older one is sassier when she explains that her family crest is a gorgon because of how fierce the women in her family are, which is very funny coming from an NPC who was a damsel in distress 5 minutes ago.
And who continues to be a damsel in distress, like ongoing.
Yep.
Um so yeah, let's just go through this assuming that, sister number 1 got rescued.
But yeah, you go to her house, you meet the two suitors. They're both kind of boring, to be honest. Unless you're doing the love quadrangle, I don't think this is very interesting.
Yeah, there is several adventures that seem very revolved around like romance in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know if that just happens to be these two adventures or if this is just a thing with the game in general, but
It is worth
not
noting there is one infuriating passage, which is the players can realize they're trapped in the past now, but if they don't, the NPC will just tell them.
there's a lot of that. There's a whole lot of like if you haven't figured something out. I mean, despite the fact that you know what adventure you're playing, if you
Yes,
haven't figured it out yet, um then
the exposition fairy will visit and slip some lore under your pillow.
yeah. That I love that. That is great. Um but yeah, so you get her home, her suitors, I'm trying to remember.
There's the
The sister gets kidnapped and
off
the
screen, you get a
yeah,
ransom note in the morning.
yeah, off screen. And there's a somehow you're magically invited to like stay overnight by these people that don't know you.
This is one of the things I mentioned, or this will come up later, but I think it's worth mentioning now as a recurring theme where our NPC buddy is a black lady scientist who made this time machine. And it's mentioned that people don't want to work with her, at least her party didn't want to work with her because she was black. And in this timeline, slavery and segregation were not that long ago, and people are still prejudiced and all that. And then they go back in time 100 years, and no one is skeptical or condescending toward this black lady scientist. There is one other white man engineer character, and he's immediately respectful and appreciative of her help. So they're willing to tackle subjects of like racism and sexism somewhat, but it's always off screen and it's always those people over there. So they can't have like directly confront it.
Um yeah, it feels like and again, there's a couple of those in other spots as well. Um But I don't know. There are things that a lot of these adventures kind of have in common that I think are a little strange, and that's why they stand out to me so much. It feels a whole lot like we made a big deal out of the fact that she was black, and now we can forget that, like, it's a thing for the sake of the story.
It does literally never come up again. Now that I think about it,
Yeah. Um. So yeah, that felt really. I mean, all they had to say was they split. Like, I don't understand. Doesn't doesn't her partner have one of the pieces?
he's the one who made a piece that broke, and you need a replacement.
Okay. I just thought I remembered something about him having a robot that, like, he'd replaced her with.
Oh
Which is
yeah,
super
he
weird.
the partner who was the racist guy with the racist family, who they call out as having a thick Southern accent, makes a robot mannequin and puts it in a dress, and attaches knives to its fingers and trains it to attack everybody who goes into his house.
Yeah. Yeah, no messaging there, honest. Um, but yeah, so now you're back in time. Like you mentioned, racism apparently doesn't exist 100 years before the racist.
Not among the wealthy white upper class family we're dealing with, apparently.
Or apparently, saving their daughter gets you off the hook. I'm not sure.
Maybe whichever one
Uh,
you happen to save.
right.
But
um,
regardless, one still gets kidnapped, and you get a ransom note the other day telling you to meet at the opera late in the evening, and you are essentially goaded into accepting
and the ransom is for a gem that the family
a
owns.
soul gem.
Right.
So
A really big one.
it's if you've played the Elder Scrolls, which most people have, it's basically the same as soul gems in that system. They're magical components that contain the souls of dead people.
Um, Except in this case, it apparently contains the soul of one of the tyrants.
But we don't know that yet.
Well, the players don't, the GM does. Guess it depends on whether or not we're looking at it. I'm looking at it from a GM's perspective. um, but yeah, so then there's the whole play theater scene.
There is a very weird section where it will give you the play by play of the opera that's happening. If the players want to go there, that's not when the meeting is. They can just go there ahead of time and watch the play. And cannot imagine as a GM acting out parts of the entirely Italian language opera. But it gives you a lot of detail if you want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess power to them for all the details, but I'm sort of left also thinking, I mean, first, yeah, this is a good spot for one of those fast forwards. Like,
Yes.
you go in, you watch the play. Play's over. Now what? And I find it weird that, you can go through the entire play, but then we have these fast forward action scenes where you lay down cards, and if you get enough cards, you get information.
Yep.
Um, they seem to be sporadic and different. I think somebody just really liked the opera and was just like, "Hey, we've got some pages to fill." Um,
Yeah, true enough. They do have a very. They're going to use the opera stage as the battle scene after this, which I actually quite like. They give you a nice map in the book of
yeah, their
the
maps are very
layout.
good.
Yes,
I like their maps a lot.
and it's a very cool set piece to have a boss fight like on stage above an orchestra pit where you can kick people off the catwalk or into the orchestra pit. And they take damage for falling. That's neat.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's a lot more interesting than just, kind of some of the standard battlefield tropes that you get.
But yeah, the evil Quebecer appears and is like, "Ha ha! Here's my hostage. Give me the stone." And they heavily goad you into combat either way because her dad will not give you the stone essentially unless you steal it from him.
Yeah, because he's addicted to the tyrant has power over him or something at this point, I think
Yes.
is
His
the
excuse is that if you give him the stone, he has no reason to keep his daughter alive. But
I
yeah,
mean,
you can't argue with him. They don't give you options to argue with him.
yeah. Uh, choo choo.
But the boss fight starts. You and your NPC buddies fight our Quebec romancer and his army of the undead. And it's scripted so that you can't kill him while he has his magic book, which is how he survived the first encounter. You can disarm him of his magic book, where he's like, no! But either way, if you kill him before he dies, he gets a free action to land a fatal attack on the NPC hostage woman he has. Or if you try to flee with her, he will do that same thing.
Yeah, because we need the next stage of the adventure to happen.
Yes.
That is literally the only reason that
This
happens.
is the linchpin of like a third of the content going forward in the adventure.
Yeah, because no one else ever gets a free action before they die, ever.
Nope.
Um,
And it happens even if you disarm him of the thing that prevents him from actually dying.
yeah, yep.
Which
Um,
she gets blood out of her eyes in classic horror movie fashion, and is dying but not actually dead. So the Doctor NPC is frantically trying to help her. So it's a really tense situation where she's badly hurt. She's not dead, but she is actively dying. Like she needs constant blood transfusion, which there are rules for. Her heart is basically badly damaged. Like they ruptured one of her valves of her heart or chambers of her heart, I guess. Uh,
which means blood transfusions would not help at all.
I guess they're kind of vague on what the injury actually is because the solution is to like build her a mechanical heart if you want to save her life. Which it'd be really inconvenient if there was like magic that could heal people, which would help the situation, which the players could take. But you're like, oh, okay, it's some kind of like lasting organ injury. You can't just use healing magic. She's still gonna be bleeding out. The start of the next scene is called Bleeding Out.
Mhm.
Oh, there's a spell called Cure Critical, which removes the bleeding out condition and can regenerate lost limbs. I don't know what you do if a player decides to cast that to help her. Do you just say no?
Yeah, I. The other thing is, I don't know. Are there? I don't remember. Are there NPCs for this game?
Yes, there's NPCs all over the place.
Sorry, pre-gens. Are there pre-gens for this?
To be honest, I did not check because I'm not really a fan of pre-gens. I don't think there are.
Because the only thing I could think of is that there must be pre-gens, and this you have to use the pre-gens for this adventure. That's the only thing, and none of the pre-gens have that spell. That's the only thing I can think of.
At least it's one spell you could take during character creation. I don't think most players would, and none of their grimoires they give you contain it to their credit, but it's still a possibility.
Hmm.
And if you have a healer character, someone who really wants to be like a life path mage, it's a significant possibility.
Yeah. So I guess if they have that spell, oops, you've solved the adventure, and we're done now. On to something else.
Well, there's fixing the time machine, but you miss out on the entire tyrant subplot.
Right. Which also means there's less room for you to mess up time. Um, but yeah, there's a whole thing about like there's so many ways she can die. Like she can die if the blood transfusions don't go right. She can die if you don't manage to get the heart built in a certain amount of time.
And
And I thought
the
there
way
was
the rest of the plot hook goes is that her sister is using the soul gem to try to return her to life. So you'd think that'd be different if you succeed on making the mechanical heart and save her life, or if she dies. No, the same thing happens.
yeah, this is what I mean is that like so much of this plot just seems to just exist for no reason. It's time filler. Like it doesn't seem to do much else. The other thing is, imagine you don't go back in time. She gets kidnapped. They get the ransom note. The father still refuses to give the gem up. I assume her
Suitors.
suitors like go to make the swap. And then they both get killed because there's no way that the two of them are standing up to this guy. So then what?
That's a
Like,
good point. I
like,
hadn't thought of
like,
that.
how is history supposed to have worked if you didn't go back in time? I mean, he kills the suitors. He
I think
probably
what is
kills her
supposed
because
to happen
he didn't get
is
the
that
gem.
the the ransom happens, the dude doesn't get it, and the two suitors either they definitely don't die in history. I guess they might run away after the dude kills his hostage. They recover her body later. Her sister uses the soul gem to resurrect her as the tyrant. The tyrant runs up to the clock tower still and then falls by accident.
Which makes absolutely no sense because
Not
he's a
really.
tyrant. Um, yeah, so yeah, the timeline, if you're not there, makes no sense. I mean, somebody obviously recovers her body. We still don't know what happens to the dude with the book. Presumably he lives. And yet we know nothing about him as far as this very carefully planned out history.
Yep. It seems like in historical context, he's basically a no name necromancer, which is really disappointing.
Which makes absolutely no sense because
He has
no
literally an inexhaustible army of the undead and is immortal.
yeah, like the choices are weird.
But enough of that. We have an actual good thing to get to after this, which is
Woohoo!
the scavenger hunt in the church.
Take it away.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite bit where you, with the newfound access you got from the engineer NPC's laboratory, your NPC is trying to rebuild the machine to send you back to the present because, like, in a decent number of years, the breach closes and kills everybody in Malifaux, so you don't want to be caught in that. And you're looking over what you recovered from your initial entry point, and you don't have a lot of your equipment or notes, or well, I say her equipment, her notes, which she's trying to get back to rebuild the machine, and it's not there.
Hmm.
And she's like, "Wait a minute, I had an idea, which I will explain to you, the players. What if, since it was a time machine, the other parts that got sucked in also came here, but at different times?" So you look through like historical records for other instances of the same weird light phenomena that took you here to find the other parts of the machine. Which I think the investigating the newspaper segment is not super interesting, but the idea is very cool of like looking for stuff that landed here a long time ago. And you go to this interesting abandoned church where the lights were observed, so other pieces of her equipment have crash landed like a decade before you got here, and you see these stained glass windows on the walls of the church, which depict you and this NPC getting sucked into the breach and fighting the necromancer. And there's even one of you guys looking at the stained glass window as you're looking at the stained glass window.
Yeah, I really liked the ideas behind this a lot.
It's a
I
shame that every character who was involved in this is dead, but it is a cool idea.
um I I think my only issue with it is that it's based on the NPC once again giving you exposition.
Yes.
Um, every other game that, involved dice or whatever would just be like, make an intellect roll. um, there is a lot in this game that is totally dependent on your NPC. And
Yeah.
I again, personal opinion, I have a real issue with NPCs that basically run the show.
Yeah,
Um,
that's my. I don't want to say my least favorite part because there's some very silly parts, but it's the part it would annoy me most as both a GM and a player of having so much depend on this external source.
yeah. Um, and I'm trying to remember how we get from here to is it the Clockwork Queen, or is that her name?
That's slightly afterward. So the Clockwork Fiend's the last thing we do, and it we get there through sheer coincidence.
Like so much else in this in this game.
But yeah, there's basically it's very and then storytelling where you go to this church, you fall through the floorboards when you're trying to recover the parts, And there's the delirium in there, which is my favorite thing in the entire adventure, which is this cool Lovecraftian monster with multiple faces that's stolen from people.
And you have to fall through the floor. There's no
Yeah, that's railroady. At least it's like, yeah, there's no way to recover the parts without the floor collapsing and you falling down there, which is annoying. But what happens down there is really cool.
yeah, that was like I said, the art and the monsters and the creatures I like in a lot of this. I think they're very creative.
Yeah, the delirium is so cool. If the nerds watching this are familiar with Warhammer and know the horrors of Tzeentch, it looks like that wearing multiple masks. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think when I was reading this, my major takeaway was there are pieces of this that I would like to borrow for other games.
Yes. But very end then style, you get back from retrieving the parts, and whichever sister is still alive is looking over her either dead, most likely, or perplexingly still alive, just with a prosthetic heart sister, using the soul stone to try to heal slash resurrect her. At which point the tyrant in the soul stone is able to form a link and possess the victimized sister, who stands up, jumps out a window, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because, if I were a tyrant, the first body I would definitely want to possess would be someone that, was dependent on a metal heart.
Or is dead.
I mean, that has its own issues, but it does seem like once you're halfway out of the stone because the sister's, taking you halfway out of the stone, why not take the sister holding the stone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
But
yeah,
yeah, if you
runs
happen to
to
have that spell that heals people, I guess this doesn't happen.
runs to the tower.
There's
Why? I don't know.
there's like a mini chase scene where you guys follow her, and there's some ghosts that attack you, and the other NPC helpers are like, "We'll hold them off. Go and get the boss enemy."
Yeah, and it's sort of I think at one point she falls or something and she regains her senses for a minute and she gives you a chance to kill her.
Yeah, she is like partially possessed at this point, so depending on what the plot demands, she's either herself or the tyrant.
Yep. Um, and I think that's pretty much the option you have is, you spend the entire adventure or two-thirds of the adventure trying to save this girl that you then turn around and murder.
Yep. I will say there is one very cool set piece in the tower once you get there, where one of the options for killing her is cutting through the rope that holds up the bell, which will smash to the floor and probably kill some of the PCs, honestly, but it will kill her as well, and that's a very cool moment if you decide to do that. But yeah, right before she dies, the tyrant releases the girl, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm sad," and then she dies.
Yeah, and I assume this brings us then back to the two love interests, then eventually killing one, trying to kill each other because
Yeah,
they both
depending
were.
on if it's their love interest's sister who dies, they don't really care. Otherwise, they have their falling out.
Yeah. Um, which would have happened if you hadn't come back in time and she died
Yep.
originally. So all of that kind of makes sense, but there's so much that doesn't make sense if the sister ends up being the one involved in all of this.
Yeah, the fight with the tyrants possessing somebody on a clock tower in a thunderstorm where you can drop the big bell is an incredibly cool set piece. It just requires some really stupid decisions to get there, most likely.
Well, that's why I said, like, there are so many things in this I would like to be able to just pull out and put in something else, like something better. Like, and that's one of them is that scene, the Cthulhu monster, uh, probably
There's, e-
even the orchestra pit thing. Like,
there's even a scene in the junkyard where you get one of the MacGuffins at the very beginning of the adventure that can happen, where weirdly enough, it'll spawn a number of enemies equal to the PCs. If there's at least four, instead of fighting, they just run away and turn into a giant, like, undead monster, which is very
oh yeah, I
strange. But
forgot
the
about that.
idea of, like, sneaking around a junkyard while a giant undead behemoth is dumbly blundering around looking for you is kind of cool conceptually.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of very cool, interesting, um, high moments tied together by a whole lot of this made absolutely no sense, but we're just gonna roll with it.
Yep.
Um, so then there's the oops, we still can't fix the time machine, if
Yeah,
I remember
there's a
correctly.
very weird scene they recommend you have in the workshop where your NPC is like, dang it, I still can't fix it because the technology of this time period isn't good enough for my genius. Darn, blast it all. And she like pounds on the desk, which has a bunch of papers on it. And one of the PCs just happens to see the name of a MacGuffin you need, which the NPC will then notice and say, like, hey, a MacGuffin, why is this here? This shouldn't be here. Which clues you into the Clockwork Queen subplot.
My understanding is that that is a character that is very important to the minis game, and
Oh, really?
the general consensus from anyone I've talked to is, yeah, this was definitely put here just as a reason to reference that individual.
Oh, she's one of the factions who is not. She's from one of the humanoid factions, so that explains why I don't know her.
Um, I mean, I don't know enough about it to know if that's true or not. That's just what a couple of people have suggested, because that was another scene where I was like, well, this is an interesting idea, but I don't understand why it's in this adventure. And they were like, because it's the Clockwork Queen, and yeah, she had to be
Huh.
mentioned. Um, so machine gets fixed. You go back through time. You meet your we have Gandalf at home guy.
Are we skipping over the Clockwork Teen entirely? Honestly, fair enough.
Uh,
It
is there was
requires
there
a
any?
scene where, in order to attract the Clockwork Queen's attention, you have to plaster your NPC's photo and prosthetic arm all over town and get people to talk about how cool she is.
Yeah, I mean, my question was going to be, was there anything in there you really found worth covering? But
Pretty much that.
that to me was just another case of great. So yet another thing that can't be accomplished unless the NPC, like, what happens if the NPC dies of her head injury over the course of this? Nothing is going to be accomplished.
Nope.
Um, yeah, like I said, I have a personal abhorrence of games that I don't like railroading games anyway, and I especially don't like games where like a single NPC basically is dragging the entire party around by their nose.
Oh yeah, apparently Clockwork Queen is part of the starter edition for the new edition of Malifaux, which is not even out yet. It's still being worked on.
That's probably it then,
Yep.
because they were really pushing the fact that the new edition was coming out, and one of the reasons that they sent stuff was that they were tying it into, hey, we have new Through the Breach stuff, and by the way, the new minis is coming out soon.
Oh, this is weird. Okay, so the fourth edition two-player starter is the Banished, who seem kind of fey-like. I'm not. Yeah, they're Neverborn. Okay, and then Ampersand, which is the Clockwork Queen faction. Ampersand is also the tech city you went to in Act One when you were looking for a MacGuffin, the robot city.
Hmm.
She has a very cool mini. I like her mini a lot. If you want to make a like woman Adeptus Mechanicus miniature, that's a good thing to use for it. She's got like hair made of cords and wires, and she got a robot face. It's neat. And then all her cohorts are these really silly looking like trash cans and soup pots with arms.
Is there a picture you can share, or?
Yes. Let me send it to you.
Oh, I was just gonna let you share your screen.
Oh, maybe. Just a sec. I don't actually know how to do that. Sorry,
Um,
chat. I'm a boomer.
no, you're not. So you have the mute cam settings, and then the one next to it should be share screen.
Okay. Let's see if I can make this work.
And you very specifically want the window one. It'll give you a bunch of options for.
Did that work?
It did.
Cool.
Can you zoom in? I'd love to see more detail.
Probably.
The weird little mushroom thing is, well, I say little, I think it's the tallest mini there.
Yes, the mushroom thing is my favorite. I really like the Neverborn in the Bayou. That's my jam. I'll tell you what, a lot of the ampersand stuff here is very goofy. The idea of the like robot fortune teller as an actual robot war piece is very cool. This thing right here.
Mm-hmm.
That and the colony is very good. Again, I like her. Everything else here is incredibly silly looking. I don't know why they gave her a literal trash can as a minion. That seems disappointing considering how imposing she's supposed to be in this book.
We also have Star Wars at home. The one on the end sort of reminds me of the oh, Danger Will Robinson robot there. I'm having a brain spaz. Lost in Space. There we go.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But
Yeah, cool minis. Tech Priest, potentially. Who knows?
um so yeah. Where were we?
They
Gandalf.
they get the stuff from the Clockwork Queen after saying how great she is, and rebuild the time machine and go home. Sort of.
Yeah,
So you might be
we have
wondering,
Gandalf at
chat.
home.
You might be wondering, chat, what happens if you do a lot of like really crazy timeline stuff in this adventure about time travel? Like, I'm sure, Goat, you and I can think of one person who, upon realizing they're 100 years in the past, would immediately try to break the time space continuum.
I mean, they would immediately track down their relatives and bang them, that's for sure.
Yes, exactly. Chaotic stuff like that. What do you think happens if you try to do that, chat? I'll tell you. Gandalf tries to kill you.
I I think I'm still stuck on the fact that you think only one person in that gaming party would do that.
I said at least one.
uh, yeah, yeah, I it's this
It's
very
really
random
bad.
it's this just totally random like, "Oh, by the way, do you remember me? I was at the beginning of this, and so now I have to come back again for one final combat scene for no particular reason." Um, I feel like I'm using the term "no particular reason" a lot with this adventure. Just for the record, your avatar has up and disappeared on you.
Oh no, how'd that happen? It's still there on my end. I'll try to reset it.
Is it? Interesting. Now I have to check the stream and see if you're still showing up on the stream. Nope, you are blank off on the stream too.
No. The one good thing I will say for this guy.
Kilowatt was naked for a moment.
Oh
You saw
gosh,
you saw it live.
very few people are allowed to see that. But the one good thing I will say for this NPC, he's apparently also a miniature. His both the artwork and miniature are very very cool.
Like I said, the art in this is great. I
Yes,
really I really enjoy a lot of that.
he looks awesome. It's just that if you made too many time paradoxes, he tries to either A, make you kill yourself, or B, attacks you directly.
Yeah, there are different levels. There's like if you didn't do too much, he's like, shakes his finger at you, says don't do it again, and sends you on your way.
For a guy whose supposed goal is to protect the timeline, the idea that he would send you back to exist in parallel with your past selves seems rife for shenanigans.
Like I said, there's so much about this game that would be great if you just played it as a comedy. That is one of them. I might sometimes actually run this just like as comedic as possible just to see how it turns out.
Also, let me see if I can get his mini up here in a second because, again, his mini is very, very cool.
Oop, hang on a second. I have to stop sharing if that's the case.
Okay.
We cannot share at the same time.
Boo. All right, let me give it a try.
And then we have to at least start the vial volume before Blaze has to
Yes.
take off. See, your bird has disappeared again. Apparently, you
Dang
can
it! Why is this happening?
because Evie Eraserhead. What is the answer to this?
This is aviophobia.
Everything can be blamed on Evie Bucks.
Yeah, this rules. This is awesome.
That paint job's really nice.
If you want a Catan proxy for your Necrons, then hit this guy up.
Yeah, I am trying to decide if the mini is cool or if the paint job is cool or both.
It's both. Like, this is the best paint job I could find, but the mini is also very cool.
I suspect you just want to get a hold of the mini and paint it now.
I wouldn't say no. Necrons are not one of my factions, but still very nice.
Eraserhead is busy making fun of Evie Bucks.
All right, let me see if I can get my bird back.
Mine will do that occasionally, but it's if I try and stop sharing the screen before I remove. Ah! What the heck just happened?
I stopped sharing,
There we go.
which might have broken things because TV Mux is like that.
It does seem to get mad if you don't remove a screen share from the scene before you stop sharing. So, but yours disappeared when you were sharing, so who the
Weird.
heck knows?
So, any final thoughts on Stitch in Time? Mine are that it has many good ideas. It would work 120% better if one of the PCs was an engineer and who could do all the engineering stuff.
Yeah, that kind of would make a lot more sense. There'd be
Also,
a
get
lot.
rid of Gandalf. Everything else is very workable.
Um,
Oh, also, I have a way to fix the issue with the sisters, actually.
oh,
Yeah, it's actually pretty simple because the bad guy's a necromancer who makes a lot of undead things. So you show up at the opera house for the confrontation, and he appears like, "Ha ha! See, I've got my hostage." And he's got the lady with a bag over her head, and like her hands tied behind her back, and like classes hostage stuff. You can even dangle her from a rope if you feel like it. And the players like fight him after he realizes they don't have the stone he wants. And they rescue the girl, yay! And they get her down, they pull the bag off, and she's a zombie! Because he already turned her into an undead, and she attacks them. And then when her sister tries to bring her back to life, it makes more sense.
I mean, you have already rewritten this game in a way that makes that is. They should hire you. Your version in 10 minutes has already worked better than the one they wrote. So, um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And then it gives a whole lot of suggestions about like depending on that's the other thing though is that if you use the same characters, you then it gives you a breakdown on how time has changed, which means that any future games you play, you have to try and figure that in.
Yeah, that's going to be real hard for the continuity of the setting going forward. But that's the nature of time travel. I'm at least impressed they don't pull some kind of Deus Ex Machina to reset everything to how it was before you left.
True. Well, except that again, I can't even figure out how most of this stuff happens if you're not there. Like you said, the tyrant has to accidentally fall off the clock tower in order for that to in order for you not to
Yep.
go back to your time and just discover he's ruling everything.
Before I knew that the fourth edition starter box was a thing, I was going to say the biggest change you could probably make is tell the Clock Queen about the impending breach closure, so she goes to Earth and doesn't die, and has her future tech on Earth like 100 years at a time. But she lived anyway, so I'm not sure what that would do exactly.
Yeah. Except that, apparently she does have future tech now, so
Yep.
but
Which
on to
she
the
stole from a black woman. Good job, Malifaux.
all right, on to the bigger and well, I don't know about bigger and better, but
Onto the smaller and saucier.
all right. So this is a bunch of one-shot adventures. Um, this also has pros and cons. The pros again being I really like the artwork. I like these adventures better. I think they make more sense. The cons being every single one of them seems to involve around the undead, and by the time I got to the last adventure, it was pretty boring. But if I were running games, I wouldn't literally be just reading through them. So,
I have not read these, so I'm going off of you, but I'm already immensely disappointed there's no Bayou involvement. Or even Neverborn involvement.
oh, there is. It's just there's a lot of there just tends to be a lot of undead.
Oh, fair enough.
It's not that there is nothing of the other factions. It's that it's what the story revolves around.
You would think if this is for players who are from a wargaming audience who probably have a faction they play and really like, they'd make this so that there's one for each of the factions. So people who really like the Neverborn, there's a Neverborn adventure. Or who really like the Outcast, there's an Outcast adventure. Or the Ten Thunders, there's a Ten Thunders adventure.
Well, it's quite possible that there is another book of one shots. This is, after all, a single volume, I think.
Fair enough.
So maybe this is the undead faction um, book, and there's a Neverborn faction book, and
Oh, maybe. But
um,
that's also a lot of books to buy, if that's the case.
unless you're only playing one faction and only want one faction. Um, and I'm immediately going to have called myself a liar because the first one doesn't really revolve around necromancy, but it doesn't really evolve around anything that's any of the factions.
Okay.
Um, this is another case where I really love the artwork.
Oh,
The
yeah, the
inside,
pumpkin's great.
um,
Oh, she's cool.
this is you just open it up and this is the first thing you see is this
Yeah.
double page of her on the left and him on the right.
Ah, yes, the two
Um,
genders.
and this is what I was talking about earlier. Like the rest of this is kind of a very similar style, but then at the beginning of each adventure, you have these kind of photorealistic, old timey art pieces. Um, this one confused me a little bit, only because it does not appear to have anything to do with the actual adventure.
You know, now that you mention that, the one at the very start of A Stitch in Time is there's one for the cover page of them getting sucked through the time portal. And then the next splash page is this, snow covered castle ruin, which never appears in the adventure.
Hmm.
So maybe they're mood pieces, I could charitably call them.
I mean, I like the art. I just can't figure out what it has to do with anything,
So it's orange. It takes place in Mexico, so we can go from there.
or southwestern U.S. Either way,
True. It could be New Mexico.
could be Breaking Bad. Nope. I thought I had turned this one around, but I guess not. Um, I really liked this weird little mechanical
Oh yeah, the clockwork trap. Yeah, those are cool.
living bear trap thing.
Yes.
Um, I had made myself a note on this. What
Is
was it?
that in the vial volume?
Yes.
It's also in Into the Breach. That's one of the clockwork crane straps.
Oh, neat. Oh, descriptions. That's why I took this picture. The descriptions, there are a whole bunch of scenes where the carver just kind of appears. And the descriptions they give for every single one of them are amazing. Uh,
Oh, nice.
like the writing on the rest of it is okay, but whoever painted these scene descriptions did a glorious job.
I feel like whoever is best at writing at the Malibu studio was really into like Spirit Halloween and that whole vibe. Because I think that's the best part of the setting is that Halloween, like spooky, not necessarily even a horror, but very spooky vibe.
This is what I was referencing earlier when we were talking about these. Um, what are they
The
called? What are they
run,
called again?
gosh, let me pull it back up.
Yeah. See, despite the fact that we have both read this book, neither of us can remember what these stupid things are called.
They're like ongoing skill challenges, but the exact verbiage is I know too many games, so I'm used to calling things generic terms. Ongoing challenges.
Yeah. So basically, you assume that there's a 20-minute time passes, um, and you can use varying skills you have and your cards, and you have to hit 12, and you have to get 3 requirements. I guess it's just in this one, it's just 3 requirements in general. In
20
most
minutes
time,
is way too long.
I didn't write it.
Like, writers for this book, I mean this with all due respect. Have you tried running for 20 minutes straight?
I
It
mean,
is not easy.
me running for a minute straight is, it's I'm one of those like, jokes about I'm not running unless something's chasing me.
But something is chasing you, presumably.
I meant in real life, but
This probably needed to be like between 2 and 5 minutes to keep things dynamic.
I would not pass the zombie land, keep up your cardio rule.
Fair.
Um so most of the time it's a certain number of requirements per player,
Yep.
which is really a problem because it means the entire team can like succeed and then one person doesn't,
Yep.
and your entire team gets whatever the failure result is. Um I'm a little bit confused how like I mean, I guess I can kind of understand stealth. I don't really understand how leadership and notice get you back home. Or wilderness, considering that you're in the city.
Fair enough.
Oh, there we go. I
We,
took a
we got to
close-up
include
shot.
everybody.
I took a close-up shot. Um, it's not just that I like this creature. I like the way it's drawn.
Yes.
The fact that it, starts so dark and then gets shinier as it goes on up. Something about that just really appeals to me. Um, I am very amused by the fact this character is in the adventure for about 2 minutes and dies immediately.
That's why they gave her a coffin goat.
But apparently we I don't know, needed to fill an extra page, so somebody like went to the trouble of giving her an entire set of stats. I mean, it's a cool shot.
Yeah, you can steal it for another game.
I was mentioning to you backstage too. For some reason, in a game that is supposed to take place in a kind of steampunk Victorian esque, there are a lot of belly shirts and Western hats.
I mean, I'm not complaining.
I'm not complaining. I just find it weird.
It's the kind of steampunk vibe where, yeah,
I don't know. Leather pants and Western hats is very. I
it's
don't think of that as
punkish.
steampunk either.
It's punkish.
Punk, yes, but not
Leather
steampunk.
pants are more punk than the cowboy hat.
So then there's our big bad, the Carver. Um, and he has an ascendant version, which is the one you actually have to beat.
I am actually kind of mad that's not colored because that's really cool.
Yeah, it's the only shot in the entire book that isn't. Um, it's still a great drawing, but Eraserhead says it's punk punk.
Show me
Um,
some leather punk.
so the entire point of this is you get invited to a party. You go to the party. One of the guys there is an inventor who also likes old stuff. He has picked up some stone he wants them to look at. It turns out he's responsible for their being invited. The stone actually attracts the carver, which is a supernatural serial killer that just randomly shows up once in a while. It shows up at the party. It immediately butchers his bodyguard, who would be that woman. So he on the spot is like, "Hey, I will pay you to get me back to my house because my house is really well defended." They basically run with him back to his house, which turns out to not be very well defended. You then have to defend his house. About halfway to his house, he's like, "Huh, you suppose that this might have anything? It's chasing us because of this rock that I have." Um, which then plays absolutely no purpose whatsoever. Um, like the other game, the option to just throw it down an alley is not given,
Because then the game would be over.
because then the game would be over. Um, so you get to his house, you have a certain number of rounds to defend, like try to defend the house, or set up defenses and traps and things.
Yep.
And then you have to fight him off.
I
And
feel
that's
like
it.
the setting up the defenses for the house could be very fun depending on your group, but most groups, especially ours, the one I'm thinking of, would just be like, we'll barricade the door. What else? I don't know.
I don't know. We got a couple of creatives. Um, Blaze says maybe he's supposed to be in black and white. Like, literally the pumpkin guy when he
I don't
ascends.
think that's true.
I mean, it would be kind of awesome if, like, his ascended form is literally just a black and white cutout. That's why he's so hard to beat, because he's two-dimensional and you can only hit him from the front. Otherwise, he just disappears when you turn sideways.
I don't want a Paper Mario boss for this Halloween horror adventure goat.
Um, yeah, so you defend him, and either, everybody lives or everyone dies. And that's pretty much the whole adventure. Um, I'm summarizing it pretty quickly. It's not terrible. I mean, it's a good hack and slash adventure if,
I'd play
that's what
that. That
you're.
sounds fun.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you're looking for, is just kind of a quick, you know, I'd like to run away from a big monster and then maybe not get killed by it.
Yeah.
Um, I think my only real complaint about it is that so much of the game is just running away and trying to avoid it. It might not be a bad, like, convention game, like if you cut it down a little bit so it's only a couple hours. But, a 4 or 5, 6 hour game, I think it would get real old real quick.
Oh yeah.
Make a check to find out if you get, 3 cards to run away.
I mean, my ideal session length is 3 hours. Any longer than that, I start fading. So this sounds great to me.
Hmm. I mean, that does explain a lot. Didn't we once do Slay Industries for like 10 hours? You did fine.
Well, that was the game where I was just playing a psycho with a gun who was just capping everybody who happened to be in my line of sight. Didn't
I
have to
mean, that's
think for 10 hours.
that's Slay Industries.
Yeah.
Second is the Ferryman. The Ferryman is probably one of my, I think one of the better adventures in this. The Ferryman is supposed to be. Oh, I wanted to talk just for a second about the contrast between the background and the foreground of this, because I thought it makes a wonderful contrast.
Ooh. Yeah, that's very nice.
Um, I really liked that a lot. Uh, this one is the shot that actually has the most to do with the game.
Really?
Yes. Um, the ferryman appears at random points on a river, kills people, and then disappears.
Okay.
He has made the mistake of actually killing someone that somebody important cared about, who has now put a hit out on this supernatural being. Um,
Good hook.
so this is what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about my issues with these particular skill checks. If you have a whole bunch of people who manage to pass this, one would think you'd get at least partial information, but it doesn't matter how close it is. Even if you succeed repeatedly and then fail on the last chunk of this, I didn't take a picture of this
Does
whole
not
thing.
the doesn't the special thing below that kind of negate that? Where at the end of each duration, so at the end of each hour, you learn a piece of information for every success. You learn a rumor for every failure.
Yes, but if you go on to read it, um, basically most of the rumors will completely like outweigh any information you're gonna get.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, I mean, this is not the worst example of that. Um, it just happened to be the ones I noticed when I was taking pictures.
huh.
Um, once again, love the maps.
Very
I
nice.
also appreciate the fact that they did the whole map of the area instead of just the areas that are part of this game. It's a little less railroady. That way, if you end up, upriver or downriver of where you should be for some reason,
Hmm.
you're not totally running blind.
Cool.
Um, if you have a party that just says, you know what, I've decided, screw this. We're gonna pretend that we were going on this, and then we're just gonna take the boat and leave. We'll come back in a couple of days and be like, oh, sorry, we tried.
Well, then they don't get paid.
Well, they don't, but they have a boat.
True.
Um, there are a bunch of NPCs that you can choose to partner up with over the course of this. Um, you don't have to partner up with any of them, but again, I like the fact that it's not quite as railroady.
I like
You
that
get
it's optional. Yeah.
yeah, you get options. This is one of them. There's a guy that has a boat that's one of them. Um, oh, this was the other thing I was talking about, where it was like, kind of steampunky, but really has a more Western feel than a Victorian feel.
True.
Blaze, have a great night. Thank you for coming.
Bye, Blaze. Thank you for chilling out.
Um, so you basically have to jump through a whole lot of hoops to find the boat with the ferryman. Um, there are chances you don't even see the ferryman for several days. Um, there are conveniently lots of other river monsters that are happy to fill up your time, though. Um, you find the ship. The twist is that it turns out it's a regular plain old ship. Um, but she kills people and captures them and then sells their body to necromancers. Um, so that's pretty much that. So you get to not only fight her, as I recall, but a bunch of zombies that have been already created on the ship.
I like the twist of it not being a supernatural creature and just a person who's killing people. I don't like that the fight is padded out with more zombies.
I mean, I guess it makes sense, though.
True.
I agree with you, though. I did like the twist a lot. There are a couple of these that have really good twists that I really enjoy. Um, hey, Tommy, welcome. Uh, yeah, some of these have really excellent twists, and it definitely makes me think that there was a different writing team.
Yep.
Um, I keep talking about how good the art is. I was gonna say I think the only exception is whoever. I don't know. The zombies are just so. Yep, that's a zombie. And considering how many different types of zombies they have, you'd think there would be like some sort of change or difference or something. Nope, they're just zombies.
Yeah, it's hard to make good zombies, but they're not good zombies.
So here's where I'm about to ruin your day, because there is in fact uh, a supernatural being involved, that she has like trapped and chained up,
Oh, okay.
and that's why she's been able to overwhelm so many ships. Um, so this is the big bad who's also a victim. Um, I have no idea how one is supposed to pronounce that, but
It's a question for your GM, fellow player.
I do enjoy this artwork the best out of all of the undead
It's pretty
things.
dang good.
Um,
I love the hair.
it's one of those, yeah. It's one of those that the longer I look at it, the more details I notice. Like there are all these little lines and everything that I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. I don't know if they're supposed to be like rumpled watermarks or what, but it's
Don't
kind of
know.
an interesting texture thing.
Yes.
Um, and I like the fact that not only is there a hook drawn, but that is in fact the main weapon.
Yes.
So there've been so many points where we were like, this art has nothing to do with what's here. Well, in this case it does. Whoops. So yeah, you have to beat the tormented, you have to beat the person that has the tormenting, or is tormenting the tormented. Um, and then you go in and you collect your treasure, and that's it. Um,
Cool.
but this one is quite enjoyable. I could
I think
definitely
this
see.
is my favorite so far.
Yeah, absolutely. The ghost house. I was interested in the fact that they really changed map styles. Again, I assume that these were all written by different people, even though there are some similarities. Um,
It reminds me a bit of the pawn shop junkyard map in Stitch in Time.
yeah, that's true. But
Oh yeah, almost same style. Go on.
this one is very much kind of more of a standard map.
Yes.
Um, so, oh yeah, I have to do this setup before I get to this because this is really funny. So in this case, you are hired by someone who is complaining because their neighbor's house is basically a party house all night long, and nobody can sleep because of the noise. Um,
It's a good
there's a
hook.
there's a real weird thing in this neighborhood. I mean, the neighborhood is technically quarantined. No one is supposed to live there, but there are all these like really really nice leftover houses. And so the necromancers, who are illegal everywhere and are already, punishable upon death, have just kind of moved into this area,
Fair enough.
and taken over these giant, super comfortable mansions. Uh, so as far as he knows, his neighbors, he doesn't have neighbors, so he figures somebody's squatting, and he's hired you to basically get them out. Um, you get there, you have a choice between either going over immediately or waiting until the next day. He's disappointed in you if you choose to wait, but understandable. Um, however, there's a lot of racket all night and you don't get any sleep, and you end up starting the next day with like deficits because because you didn't get any rest. So when the NPC says hint hint, you really should go now, you in fact should really go now. Um the basis for it is that a necromancer successfully built a fake soulstone, like a synthetic soulstone,
Okay.
um, which is supposed to be impossible to do. Unfortunately, there was, a little glitch in the system, a little bit like with the time machine. And when he had this huge party to show off his invention, uh, he accidentally killed everyone and trapped them in the soulstone. Oops. So
Poor guy.
all of these tormented souls are basically hanging around in this house, trying to figure out how to get free and getting crazier and angrier all the time. And apparently, even though they're trapped in the house by the soul stone, they're not actually trapped in the soul stone, which gets a little confusing. Every one of these rooms has some weird thing that goes with it. Like if you go in the washroom, the sheets will like attempt to strangle you to death,
Nice.
which I thought was pretty funny. And there are 3 different spots you can find the stone. Considering how railroady so many of these adventures are, I thought that was an interesting choice. But again,
Yeah.
at least the GM gets to do something other than just read off the page. uh, and basically, you just go room by room and deal with whatever weird, angry, ghosty thing happens to be in any given room. Um, and they're, they're in the laundry, they're in the mirrors, they're all over the place. So this is what I found really funny. In the description of each room starts with, as you enter the room, or as the fated enter the room, read the following. And this obviously was cut and pasted, and you can tell it was cut and pasted because in the kitchen they changed it to, as the fated enter the kitchen, read the following. And the next 3 rooms proceed to say, as the fated enter the kitchen, read the following.
You're gonna be there for a while and answer the kitchen. Yeesh.
So, if you would like to hire a new editor, just let me know, because
It is also worth noting that there's several pages in A Stitch in Time in the middle where they redirect you to a page for an event that happens, and it's the wrong page.
there were so many typos in that book. But yeah, this one, normally typos irritate me mainly because I'm like, you paid someone to edit this and I didn't get paid to edit it, and I'm the one noticing your errors. But in this case, I just found it really funny. I kept going back to be like, am I missing something? Like, how did this not get noticed for like 3 rooms? And why would you cut and paste enter the kitchen? Um,
True.
but yeah, it was hysterical. Like all of a sudden it's smoking room as the fated enter the kitchen. I was like, is the smoking room off the kitchen? What? So yeah, here's another one. Fated enter the kitchen. Uh so they apparently, not only did they copy and paste this, but what is different is there's a colon, which means they copied and pasted and then added punctuation and still didn't notice they'd made an error.
Poor guys. Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I was trying to get it lined up a little better, but I don't know if that is supposed to be Herod, who is the guy who killed everybody. Or if somebody just decided they really needed some cool artwork here, but I love that picture.
Either way, it's pretty good.
So once you finally get to the point where you found the gem, in I think this one is if you're in his study. Either way, he shows up and assumes you're trying to steal his research. So you have to defeat all the ghosts. You have to defeat him. And the best case scenario is you just smash the gem when you find it.
Really?
Well, because that releases all of the spirits.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because it's what's tethering them to the house, and they're what's making all the noise. Alternatively, you can take the gem to the neighbor, explain what's going on, in which case he will smash the gem, and it has the same result. If you choose to take the gem somewhere else, wherever you take it just immediately becomes haunted. Because they're tethered to the stone, not the actual.
Yep.
Oh yeah, this was another thing. For some random reason, not only are there ghosts in this house, There are also rats in trench coats,
It's an
and
abandoned house, so that kind of checks out.
it's not even 3 rats in a trench coat. It's like a lot of rats in a trench coat. But I did love this. I thought this was pretty funny. I like the fact that like there is a rat's head right here sticking out where the arm would be.
Yeah.
I have teeth instead of fingers. But yes,
Hello, I am a human adult. One alcohol, please.
this is the Rat King, uh, a being made up of his subjects apparently.
Amazing.
Um, it does in fact come with other rats that will also bite you. Uh, this was probably my least favorite.
It's my least favorite cover art, probably.
It's not only that, it's the entire thing is just a romance novel with zombies.
Oh,
Um, you're sleeping, zombie shows up at your door. Oh, I guess this one sort of has something to do with the
it's a
adventure.
graveyard. There's zombies. I'll give it a pass.
Um, yeah, I did. Oh, more artwork I liked.
Cool.
I thought it was very weird how the nails are so much more distinct than the rest of the picture. The rest of it has this kind of old timey, faded out thing.
Hmm. Where there's still like new and shiny nails, it seems like, compared to the rest of them.
Maybe I wasn't sure if it was a stylistic choice or if it just was coincidence in the way the picture happened to take or what. But um, apparently I didn't take many pictures of that one. Probably because I figured people would get tired of me talking about how good the art was.
Fair enough. I'm not.
Um, so she she shows up. She says that she sort of has vague memories of, you know, being out running errands kind of thing. And then all of a sudden she woke up in a morgue. Um
Oh, cool. I've played Planescape Torment.
so you do some checking around, you discover that she was the fiance of an inventor who recently had an invention that went really big. Um she went missing. Apparently she was killed by considering basically based on the fact that she's now a zombie.
Yep.
Um, in the grand total of 3 weeks since she has gone missing, he has gotten engaged to another woman,
Oh,
um, who is some powerful lady whose house doesn't actually have a whole lot of money. So it's as much a joining of she has she knows people. He now has money because his invention has hit it really big.
I see.
Um, it doesn't take very long at all to track back who killed her and why. They were hired to do it. Uh, you basically you just track back like, oh, who makes zombies? Okay, this person makes zombies. Where did you get this body? Well, these 2 guys gave it to me.
It's the guy who killed her, right? The husband.
No,
Oh,
it's the lady who had her killed to get her out of the way
oh,
so
okay,
that she could get the guy's money.
gotcha.
Um, and then there's a whole long scene at the end, which literally is about as complicated as most anything else that happens, in which she tells him that she's undead, tells him that, she still loves him. And then either he says, I love you, but that's too weird for me. Um, or they live happily ever after until she rots away. I don't know.
Or he dies.
Um, it's it's very thin. I don't like romance adventures to start with. It I don't know what you'd I mean, if you had a party of like 7 people tracking down like who killed this girl and why, and I don't know, it seems like it would get real boring real fast.
As a DM, the aspect of having to do a romance scene with yourself as two NPCs is wretched, and I would never want to do it.
I mean, that I had not considered that part. That does actually sound kind of funny to me. um, the last adventure, I think you will find the most interesting.
Hmm.
Um,
Cool.
oh, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I forgot there was this one. There's one more in the middle.
That does not bode well for its quality.
It's okay. It's an interesting it's another interesting twist one.
Okay.
Um, you are hired to salvage a steamship.
Cool.
The
Okay.
twist is that the previous crew of the steamship sunk it intentionally because there was a supernatural entity on board that drove them all crazy and wanted to get to land so that it could like eat the souls of more people.
Oh, okay. Good premise.
Um, so you basically find the ship. The ship basically wants to be found, and so that's not very hard. And then you go into the ship. Most of it involves like me needing to make a lot of dex checks because the ship is kind of up on end.
Mm.
Oh yeah, then there was this thing. Before you find the ship, you get this random run-in with a bunch of giant mosquitoes. And I did not understand the purpose of this because no matter what happens, there is no lasting impact.
Oh, okay.
They can infect you with a disease, but if you can't fix it yourself, she has some like bayou recipe that tastes really bad and makes you smell, and other than that, like you're fine.
All right.
Um, but you did point out that sometimes, they just try and make you waste cards.
Yep.
And players aren't going to know that this has absolutely no long-term results. So this is the ship. As previously mentioned, it's sort of up on end, and so you end up with things like if you open a door at the end, everything just kind of falls down to the bottom of the ship. Hanayama, welcome. Um, so there's a lot of like don't get clubbed by falling things. There are a lot the remnants of the ship's crew have been possessed and will attempt to attack you. The ship's captain will first try to stop you from taking the chest that has the big bad chained in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then if you insist on doing it anyway, um, well, I mean, then it's got the big bad. So once the big bad gets out, it gets real ugly real quick.
As I
So
would imagine.
basically, the easiest way to win this game is just to not play it.
Or set the boat on fire and collect the insurance money.
It's underwater.
Oh.
They sank the boat in order to stop the big bad
Oh,
from
I
getting
assumed
out.
it like ran aground or something.
No, they intentionally like put a hole in it.
Ah, okay.
Um, yeah, they put a hole in it and let themselves die in order to save the rest of humanity from the big bad. So the only way to win this adventure is when they come up and say, "Hey, we'd really like you to, come, you know, get this ship with us," is to be like, "No, I'm good, thanks. Have a nice day." Otherwise, if you have any continuum between your games at all, I even if characters die, frequently the world that they built will affect the next group. In this case, there wouldn't be much of a world for the next group to like take part in.
Yep. Remember, players, just say no. The boss fight can't start without your consent.
Okay, so this is the one I thought you'd really like. I do not know why I didn't take a picture of the cover.
Cool
Probably
artwork, though.
because I thought this one was really cool.
I like Joker Man on the left there.
If you look, they're both Joker people.
Oh yeah, I thought it was a Veil or something, but yeah, that's a Mortal Kombat face. Nice.
Um, all right, now it's not going to let me back it up. That's annoying. Not only is it not going to let me back it up, it apparently is also not going to let me.
Enjoy this view, chat.
There we
It'll
go.
open something in you.
There we go. So this adventure is called Memento Mori.
Cool.
Um, and basically, someone you know passes away, and you are invited to the funeral.
Good
And
hook again.
you get to the funeral and discover very quickly that the person you thought you knew was a mimic. Whether the
Oh,
person you knew was a mimic, or whether or not the person who died was a mimic, and they were mimicking someone you knew, hard to say. Um, the implication, though, is that at least part of the time you knew this person, they were the mimic.
oh, that's spooky. This is
Um,
be a very good thing to run after another adventure where you get to interact with this person.
um, you are then invited to the wake and to the will reading. Um, and I'm trying to remember exactly how this went. Basically, once you get past the initial stages of like public niceness, everyone who shows up to the other events are members of the Neverborn.
Ooh,
So
that's cool.
you are the only humans in a gathering of various Neverborn.
Oh, that's so cool.
Um, and you have to, and it's very apparent, like there are no disguises here, there's no nothing, you just walk. It's not like you go in and you're like, huh, this person seems a little strange.
She's got too many fingers.
um they're just like, all the masks are off, um and they're just blatantly not human. um so the will gets read. uh Apparently you end up like with the potential to get, stuff in the will. But you have to journey to a neighboring district and locate someone just called the Widow and deliver a letter in order to collect your section. But there's no address. You have no idea who the Widow is or what the Widow is.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much the adventure. It's more like a detective thing. If um, Hanayama says so, it's legal to start beef with them. I mean, it's suicidal, but sure. um, but yeah, so that's kind of the setup to that. Um, and I like the fact that it's so many of these are very heavy combat related,
Hmm.
and they're very like I said, they feel very railroady. I loved the fact that the last one of these ends off with kind of a detective story and a lot more interesting background characters, in my opinion. Um, these are two of them, but
Hmm.
in general, this whole section is just full of like really cool NPC interactions.
I like that a lot.
Um, this well-dressed couple are old friends of Avenroe. Klaus Norwood, a tall man with only a large mouth on his face, dressed in a dapper pinstripe suit, and his companion Hilgard, wearing a stunning evening gown and concealing mandibles behind a fan. Neither seemed terribly upset or interested in the funeral. Neither seemed terribly interested in the funeral or even visibly upset. Um, though I don't know how you'd tell if someone was upset if your face was permanently frozen in a. Um, but like they are basically every NPC is incredibly dangerous.
Right.
Uh, and so you have to figure out how to interact with all of them to figure out how not to offend them in any way, shape, or form and get eaten.
Oh, that's
Which would
really cool.
Which would be rude at a wake, but, you know, if you annoy them enough. So that is the one-shot adventures. Um, I think it's very apparent I liked them better. Uh,
I really want to read that last one.
yeah, it's that one, and I think that one would depend a lot on how it was run. That one might be able to beat out the Ferryman as my favorite. I think the Ferryman is more straightforward and makes a good one shot. I
Hmm.
think that last one I would really be tempted to expand it into something more than just a one shot adventure.
Yeah, I feel like you really need the setup of something beforehand where you know whoever it is before they die and reveal to be a mimic. I think that would make it much better.
Yeah. Um I hadn't considered that part, but I absolutely agree with that. But I think if you're trying to do it as a one shot, like the getting to know all of the other NPCs would lose something.
Yes.
Um and like I said, the NPCs are really what make this very cool.
Hmm.
So I think if you ran it as is, I think I like the Ferryman better. I think it makes a better one shot. But if you ran it as a longer game, I think I probably like that one better.
I can agree with that.
But so overall, you said you started out really interested in this game, um,
I
because
think
of the
if
minis.
you, yes. So my kind of final thoughts are, if you are interested in Malifaux from a lore or a tabletop perspective, I think this game system has some very interesting ideas. I think that a number of the one shots that Goat mentioned in the Dreadful Dozen, was it?
Um, the Vile Volume.
Vile Volume, that's it. Those are very good, and there are tools enough to run whatever kind of adventure that you might have replicated from your tabletop experience. It does annoy me a little that there are other books involved that are extra purchases, and
I
I
mean,
would not recommend Stitch in Time.
I guess for a supplement, that's pretty normal. I mean, having to buy the core book is a pretty common thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the fact that you might have to buy two core books is an entirely different story. Um, yeah, I would say my thoughts are pretty similar. Like I said, I think if you ran Stitch in Time as a comedy, um, or just I don't know, house ruled the heck out of it. I mean, I could see chunks of that being really good, but like I would immediately cut the first third. Um, I would cut off a lot of the deadwood in between scenes that doesn't really seem to go anywhere. Um, and then I would probably just ask you to rewrite the rest of it because you've already done a better job.
See, from my perspective, if a DM has to do that much work, I'd say play your own game instead.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I tend to, and again, I said this earlier, I tend to not be a fan of pre-done adventures simply because I always want to make some sort of change. But I do have to say that I think this is the one I would have to change the most, out of pretty much everything I've ever considered or looked at and said, you know, if I ran this, what would I do? Um, yeah, this is one of those I'd look at and just be like, nope, this is if it railroads the players 90% of the time, and if there's no reason for the GM to even be there, like the players could literally just flip the pages and you know use it as a choose your own adventure book,
Hmm.
um, then I tend to not like them. On the other hand, some people really enjoy that kind of it, especially if they're new to the game. Um, they tend to like that kind of adventure because they can run without the pressure of running. Um, I've been doing it for 20 years. If I haven't learned to run a game by now, I'm really in trouble. Um, But yeah, I do like several of the one shots a lot. And I do think that I will probably take some stuff out of Stitch in Time, even though it's not my cup of tea. I think I will be taking some things out of that and incorporating them into other games. Um, I do think that there are. potential pieces that I really enjoyed.
Oh, agreed.
So no spoiling it for the rest of the group when, random women who are possessed by tyrants walk up to your group. Any last thoughts?
That was what I had. I am looking forward to whatever they do with Malifaux in the future. My one complaint, if they happen to be watching this, is that I'm looking through the stuff for the new edition, and I do not see anything for my favorite mini they have made, which is the Sow, which is a Cerberus hog with 3 heads, which is amazing.
Nice.
I want to see that in more things. I think that's such a cool model and monster.
I love that idea. And honestly, a 3-headed sow might be more dangerous than a 3-headed dog.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining me, and for plowing your way through all of these books. I hope that it has some use for you in the future and was at least somewhat enjoyable.
Yeah, maybe I'll start a Bayou Force at some point. Who knows?
I always did think it was too bad there aren't more. So many games are like either set in suburban areas or. I always thought more games set in, New Orleans and swamps and things like that would be fun.
Nolans, yeah.
So, okay, Yarny is rating us just as we're wrapping up.
Hi, Yarny.
Hi, Ben. Welcome. We're just getting done.
Yarny's cool.
But welcome anyway.
Any friend of Yarny's a friend of mine.
So, Kilo, anything else other than the fact that Malifaux is going to be coming out with a new edition soon? Anything else you want to... I know you do not have a channel to plug, but is there anything else you want to plug?
No thanks. I think I'm good.
Okay. We will be back here tomorrow for Shows You've Never Seen, episode 6. Do you want to give us a sneak peek of your opinion on that?
I actually will not be here tomorrow. I have a thing.
No.
So you knew that was the case when we settled on Wednesdays. But good luck to everybody.
I knew you occasionally weren't going to be here. I didn't know you weren't going to be here tomorrow. So, but that's all right.
I'll see you on the next one.
Yes, we'll see you on the week after.
Yep.
Though we are, I think, now over the. Are we now over the tipping? No, next week will be the halfway halfway mark. So.
Yep.
So we will be back here for Shows You've Never Seen tomorrow, except apparently Kilo will not. And I finally got the script done for my video Battle Royale style movies. Previous to this, my longest script has been about 4,200 words. That was my stop motion. And my last script was pretty close to that. It was like 4,100 and something. I broke 8,000 this afternoon for the script. So, take a good chunk of time when that video drops, because I suspect it's going to end up being a long one. Not that I will be in Longman or Platoon territory, but
I look forward to the Long Goat avatar sometime in the future.
But I'm going to be covering a summary of Battle Royale and 9 movies that wanted to be Battle Royale. That's my...
That sounds really cool. Looking forward to it.
So, all right. Everyone have a great night. Thank you so much for coming. Yarn Raid officially arrived just as we're going to the outro. So, everyone have a great night, and we hope to see you next time.
Goodbye.
It's a fucking goat! Eclectic Goats got videos of indie authors and cinema love. A passion for the weird and the strange. She's snappily dressed and only slightly deranged. Come and meet the eclectic goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word. Happy head hunting, come join the herd. Shows my we've got real zombie, fake wizards, the other. Pizza in one hoof, glass in the other. Deciding which role-playing games we will cover. Come and meet the eclectic goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word. Happy head-butting, come join the herd. Got a thing for black and white screens, crappy horror with low-budget scenes. Choose on the history, spits out the lore. Time for another whiskey pour. Come and meet the eclectic goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word. Happy head-butting, come join the